Good morning, and my goodness, it's hard to believe we're already at a Friday again. And in the month of January, January 9th, it seems like we were celebrating New Year's Eve just a day or two ago, and here we are to the 9th of January. And another Friday comes, and weeks just seem to go by pretty quickly. But in any case, I continue to look at the various newsletters and reports that are coming out, and I found that the Tufts Health and Nutrition newsletter had a really excellent special report on recapping highlights from the 2025 studies that were published throughout the year. And one of the articles that were in this was put out by Dr. Kayla Shea, a scientist for disease prevention and a professor at the Friedman School. Thought it was a great recap on the research done in 2025 that was reported on the brain-body connection. And so studies published in 2025, so she writes, underscores the importance of dietary patterns. So this is that point that we've made in our 6 key factors for long-term cognitive fitness about the importance of nutrition. And so she starts off with the dietary patterns impact the quality and the body weight and lifestyle habits all play important factors in maintaining cognitive function and lowering the risk of dementia. And so we get into this mental battle within ourselves, which is, do these reports really, can I really believe these? Can I really base my lifetime, my lifestyle activities on what they're reporting? And I always start by saying, well, first of all, the question you got to ask yourself is, do you really care and want to be proactive in what you do with your mental health? And mental health is across the cognitive boundaries of our thinking, our creativity, our memories, our ability to communicate. And so all of these factors, from memory to communicating to creating, are important to our long-term cognitive fitness. So what I'm very interested in is, what are we learning that are important for people to know that can make a difference in their lives if they choose to make that difference. So a study that she started with here says healthier dietary patterns and less abdominal fat in midlife, those people had better and stronger memories that were tested in their 70s. So it's really terrific to me that they've had studies that check and test these things that are more than just one study over 12 months. And of course, the researching of these things are important, and they really require funding, and it's really been wonderful that we've had funding for projects like this so we can learn more about the most important thing that we have, which is our mental functioning. Because it's one thing to have a physical body that's in tune, but it's important from what people I've talked with for years basically share. I don't want to live to be older if I don't have my mental faculties, and I don't know who I am or what people are, or I can't talk with people, or I can't love my grandchildren. And so it's been interesting if we think about living longer and longer from the cardio point of view, right? We think about cardio and different physical things to our body, but now more and more is coming about, what about our mental functions? So the long-term study basically said, hey, my goodness, it's important that our dietary patterns are important. And so that starts to say, well, gee, dietary patterns have changed so many times. And we've had so many different, reports about what's good for you, what's not good for you, what food is good for you, what food is not good for you. So what they're learning more and more is that foods that have compounds that are in plants that include flavonoids, tea, apples, blueberries. Older adults have found that consume more flavonoid-rich foods were associated with lower risk of frailty, physical decline, and poor mental health. So that brings the question to people. So, hey, tell me about what's better for me in terms of plant-based foods. And plant-based foods don't have to be your whole diet. So you can still mix that up, because here we can swap foods and put in fish and poultry are linked better to brain health and less cognitive aging. So it doesn't mean you just have to eat plant-based foods. You can put fish and poultry in there. And again, the fish that I try to eat are tuna and salmon, herring. I try to stay with foods that, again, rich in omega-3 as well as the flavonoids that they talk about and the other foods that are better for us. And of course, I used to love red meat, steaks, prime rib, and whatever, but what they're telling you over and over again has caused me to back up and say, wait a minute, I don't want to have a piece of steak or a prime rib and find out that what? Processed red meat is associated with several studies that were done, and this was hundreds of thousands of people. Processed red meat are associated with higher dementia risk. So we talked to my cardiologist, and he says, hey, processed red foods, not good for your coronary, your arteries, and the fats that are in those. And then you come along, and he said, physically, the mental health is equally as important, and red meats are not as good, so I have significantly cut down on the amount of red meats that I do eat. I still eat them, but I do have cut them back. Oh, so it's like, God, what do we do, and how do we stay on top of these things? Lifestyle matters. This is the second part of what Dr. Shea puts into this. A large clinical study, and this has been going on and on and on, this whole notion of lifestyle and not feeling lonely or isolated. The lifestyle trials have found that modifications that combine healthy eating, and now we're going to eat well, right? We're going to change some of our eating habits, with physical activity, social activity, and cognitive exercises, and focusing on cardio also boost the brain function over studies that were done with people that were at risk for declining. So that's a package for you. So what you want to be obviously is lifestyle changes. So modifications in your eating. So we already talked about that. What about physical activity? And more is coming out in the fact of the importance of movement. So you don't have to be a marathon runner. You don't have to be in races and things of that sort. In fact, here around the Disney property this week, they're telling you to stay away over the weekend because of the marathon races and different people coming from all over to come race. Well, physical activity doesn't mean you need to be a racer. Walking, getting out every morning and 5 minutes before you go to bed, just getting out and being active and moving, not just sitting all day long. So physical activity. Social activity. So, wow, what do we mean by social activity? Community affairs, go watch kids at a ball field, whether it be soccer, football, baseball. There are all kinds of kids' activities these days, like your local high schools. Basketball season, you can go indoors if it's cold and go watch a basketball game on an indoor arena. You can watch volleyball. I mean, there's enough of things that get you involved in social environments that back up the science that's telling you some way where you don't feel isolated or you don't feel alone, where you can just start to become a student of watching, and then volunteer to help where you might be able to have a skill or something you develop. I always remember a session years ago that was with the church, and I was invited to bring some Boy Scouts that I was doing some work with, and taking them through some of these cognitive exercises, and got to go work with the church, and we got to go in and have kids work with the seniors that were there for bingo, when we held bingo for a little bit, and have them teach the kids how to fish, maybe how to do some carpentry, maybe how to do some plumbing. So the seniors that had experiences shared cooking, and so some of them shared with cooking. So there's all these different things that the seniors were able to do, gave them an activity and gave them an ability to help younger kids. So that was a good thing. Oh my goodness. And of course, cognitive activities. So we talk about cognitive activities in our Maximum Memory Mastery online course, and that is a way of saying, how do you exercise your brain? How do you solve problems? How do you get involved with different activity? Ballroom dancing has continued to come up as one of the best things because it requires mental activities in terms of the steps of a tango or rumba or some of the salsas and the different dances. But it gets your body moving, but it also requires your brain to think about the steps and the sequence of those steps. And so there's a series of mental activities that we can do, learning how to remember names and faces, learning how to remember numerics and things of that sort. So there's mental activities that we've learned over the years in our memory championship work that basically tells you challenging your brain from a mental point of view is also helpful. And then the last but not least, maintaining your cardio because of the importance of oxygen and how oxygen gets into your brain and makes a big difference in terms of the quality of your oxygen. So I just found the doctor's article on brain-body connection was really helpful. I wanted to share the summary of what reports were done in 2025 so we can all grab at least one thing in our lives that can make a difference in terms of not just our physical well-being, but also our mental well-being. And it's hard to believe it's another weekend. I am in Windermere, Florida, where they expect the temperatures to be in the low 80s over the weekend, so I'm in good shape until next week, where they'll only be in the 60s, but that's okay. The 60s versus what I see on the weather map in the northeast, Midwest, climates are a little bit colder. With that, have a great weekend. There's lots of football on, starting with the NCAA playoffs and then going into NFL playoffs starting Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday evening. So enjoy your game. Hopefully your teams go, and there's college basketball in full swing as we get into the college season as well. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you on Monday.